utterly changes your rest of your life. Nothing can be the same. The chapter of your previous life closes and something new opens. And we feel we were given an opportunity to be a voice for others because we know what it's like to be in their shoes. And knowing that it's something that can never leave you. There is a lot of hope, though. It's not all bad news, but we carry that torch and will continue to do so, I think, until the problem is solved and allergy is gone forever.
Nadine and Tanya, thank you. Nadine and Tanya Leperouse, whose daughter, 15-year-old Natasha, died after taking a allergy. Baguette. You heard them talking about their desire for a meeting with the health secretary. There's a meeting. We've had this from the Department of Health, the Department of Health, ongoing discussions with the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation about a bridge for people with allergies and medicines with care needs and their views and any
Well, it is the summer season, and some of you may be listening to us on your summer holiday. A big thank you from me and the two Simons as we sun ourselves in the today's studio. We have been dropping into some very busy tourist destinations over the past week to hear from local residents about the impact of tourism, mass tourism. And you may have heard, and we've heard from, among others, an ice cream seller in the Cotswolds, a hotelier on the Greek island of Santorini. Today we're going to Wales, to Bynai Bwrdd National Park, formerly known as the Brecon Beacons. It's one of Wales's most popular tourist spots, and it seems it's now being flooded by visitors, including those in search of the perfect scene for those Instagram and TikTok posts. Joining us is Helen Roderick, the Sustainable Development Manager at the park. Helen, just how bad is it? Paint a picture for us. Do you run into a social media influencer at every rock?
Not quite. I think it's a balance. But we are very busy at times, and especially in this summer season, and particularly at places like Penarvan, which is the highest mountain in southern Britain. So people want to go there, but we kind of appreciate that, and as long as people think about how they're going to get there, there's a bus service from Myrtle or Brecon, so please leave your cars at home. Think about what you need to wear when you get there. It's a high mountain and the weather's changeable. Think about when you can come. Could you come midweek instead of at the weekend, so that you get a better experience and actually, when you're there, you put your phone in your pocket for a while and actually really experience what everything that Bala Brahina offers.
You might succeed in some of those points, but maybe not the last one. So you do want to get people to think about coming another time but the summer. Of course, some people only have holidays in the summer. But what is it like later in the year? Do you still get visitors?
Yeah, we do. We have, certainly in the autumn and winter, we've got amazing dark skies. We're an international dark sky reserve, and that means that at night, or in the evenings when it's dark, you can really experience something really special. So yeah, and we've got festivals and various things sort of outside the season, September, October. So yeah,
Would you
come another time.
Would you ever think of a not so gentle approach, saying to people, there's going to be we're limiting the numbers, or are you going to have to pay a daily fee to come in, as some very popular sites like Venice have done?
Yeah, I think everything's on the table really. It's about balance, and it is about protecting. Our first purpose as a national park is to protect and conserve and enhance the beauty of the wildlife that we live in. So if that, if we're being impacted by that, but then we'll think about all options really. We haven't got anything definite at the moment, and we are all about trying to
Simon goes. Manchester United open up the new Premier League season with a 1-0 win over Fulham at Old Trafford. The Dutch international Joshua Zirkzee came off the bench to score the debut winner. There are 6 more matches in the Premier League on the opening Saturday of the season, starting with Ipswich Town against Liverpool. That's at 12:30, and it's Ipswich's first top-flight match for 22 years. Elsewhere, Arsenal host Wolves, Everton are home to Brighton, it's Newcastle against Southampton, Nottingham Forest face Bournemouth, while in the late game, that's at 5:30, West Ham take on Aston Villa. Now, Rugby Union, and a week on from their stunning victory over the New Zealand All Blacks in Wellington in the Rugby Championship, Argentina are looking to repeat the feat at Eden Park in Auckland. Now, the last time the All Blacks lost any team at Eden Park was 1994, when the sport was still amateur. So can Argentina upset the 3-time world champions again? Well, a few moments ago, the score was 14-3 to the All Blacks with about 18 minutes gone, so still early in that one. Now, ahead of this Rugby Championship, the sports governing body World Rugby introduced some rule changes, which they say they hope will speed up the game and increase entertainment. So joining us to discuss these changes is the legendary former international referee Nigel Owens. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Among the rule changes are 20-minute red cards. So players sent off after being shown a red card can be replaced by another player 20 minutes later. You've described the move as a knee-jerk reaction, so you're not a fan.
I'm not, and I tell you the reason why. This goes to deal with the issue that rugby has regarding particular head contacts. There's a couple of things to understand here about this. So if the referee gives a red card for a headbutt or a punch, anything that has nothing to do with head-on-head contact under the current sort of HIA protocol, any red card is given the referee on the field, as I mentioned, the headbutt, the punch, the boot in the head, that will stay as a red card. There will be no 20-minute replacement on that. It's the head-on-head contact. The referee then refers to the bunker and then gets it graded to a red card. That is what then will be replaced by the 20-minute rule where a player can come back on, another player can come back on after 20 minutes. This is only now a trial, which Sanazar, which is the rugby championship taking place now, have had special dispensation to trial this. So it's not in globally yet, it's a trial in this. Now what this will tell you is this. The reason why they put this in is because a lot of feeling by a lot of rugby supporters is that the game is spoiled when a player gets a red card, particularly when it's a very unlucky red card. My issue is that if it's an unlucky red card and a complete accident, then it shouldn't be a red card in the first place. A red card should be when there's a total act of recklessness or thuggery by a player, which deserves to be a red card, and then the team then should not be then back in advantage of 50 men for that. If it's an accidental and people go, oh, that's a bit unlucky, it shouldn't be a red card, then it shouldn't be one. So my view is, I can understand people's feelings about it, but giving up 40 men or even 30 men after 10 minutes and then it spoils the game. People do. I can understand people's views on that, but I don't think it gets to the heart of the matter, which is the player safety in changing player behaviour, so we're not having these shoulder to the heads and the head-on-head contact. I don't think it's going to be a prevention that will still continue, and what we need to do is to get that out of the game to make the game even more safer and as safe as we possibly can.
There are also plans to reduce, for example, the amount of kick tennis. They're addressing the action of rolling or pulling a player in the tackle. That's known as the crocodile roll. Aren't all these changes, Nigel, just confusing for fans? The sport just needs to find a formula that works and stick to it.
Yeah, I think you have a point. I think when you change things and a knee-jerk reaction of changing things, changing things sometimes, it does take away and have a knock-on effect in other areas of the game. And if you go, play a safety response back, so let's look at the crop. The crop roll is dangerous, it shouldn't be part of the game. It's quite clear safety law, and that is a good thing for the game. So that shouldn't be any form of understanding. It's dangerous, get it out of the game, causes serious injuries. So something like that is a change that should be welcomed in the game as well.
Nigel, I'm going to have to interrupt you there, but
did want to just congratulate you on getting married last week. The pictures looked wonderful.
Commiserations. No, thank you very much. It was a wonderful day. Thanks very much. And thanks to everybody for the kind messages as well. Well appreciated.
Nigel Evans, thanks for speaking to the Sunday program.
Well, if you're already looking ahead to what you're going to do tomorrow, don't forget Broadcasting House is tomorrow morning at 9. Here's Paddy O'Connell.
Hello. Ending universal winter fuel payments is crazy, so says Ed Davey. He's an interview talking on Russian private terms. The BBC's Sarah Rainsford, who was ejected from Moscow, is our live guest to review Ukraine's mission inside Russia. Bring back the full TV band on every edition of Strictly, so say musicians. We go in praise of the in-house lineup on the box. And we talk books. The list of the top-selling titles of the last 50 years is out. And you send us a one-sentence plot summary. VH is on BBC Sounds and on Radio 4 at 9.
29 minutes to 9. Let's have a look at the weather. The north and west will be cloudy with sporadic showers throughout the day, while northwest Scotland will experience blustery and wind at times. Sunny in the southeast with occasional showers.
And now it's 8:32 and you're listening to Today on BBC Radio 4 with Simon Jolly and Louise Doucette. A summary of the news from London.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will travel to Israel this weekend as part of efforts to secure a ceasefire deal in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages being held there by Hamas. President Biden has said a deal is closer than ever before and warned all sides in negotiations not to undermine the process. Lebanon's health minister says at least 10 people have been killed in an Israeli strike on a residential building in the southern city of Nabatea. Israel says its target had been a Hezbollah weapons depot. Doctors in India have begun a national strike to protest against the rape and murder of a female colleague in the West Bengal city of Kolkata. The Indian Medical Association said all non-essential hospital services would be shut down across the country. And new research shows that over the past decade, the proportion of 15-year-olds in Britain classed as having a disability has increased from 10% to 17%. Figures have been compiled by the Resolution Foundation, a think tank which focuses on improving living standards for people on low to middle incomes.
Cheers, Alan. 27 minutes to 9. Who will emerge as the next Tory leader and what should his or her priority be? The 6 candidates, Hilly Badenoch, James Cleverly, Robert Jenrick, Mel Stride, Priti Patel and Tom Tugendhat, will gather at the first members' hustings of the contest in Stockton-on-Tees today. It's been organised by Northern Conservatives. It comes as another group, Young Conservatives, who've warned that the party needs to stop exclusively chasing older votes, as polling from YouGov found the tipping point of the crossover age when people are more likely to vote Conservative has reached 63. Its lowest age was 34 when David Cameron was elected in 2015. Ramon was councillor, Russell Bernstein leading the very Conservative group on Berwick Council. But first, Noah Cohen from Next Gen Tories. She is 29 years old with you in studio to you. Now, the grey vote is big and can usually be relied on to turn out. Where are the Conservatives going wrong and why?
So I think there was always this assumption, or at least for a very long time, that people became more conservative as they got older. But this trend has not been bearing out for millennials, and I don't think it will necessarily bear out for Gen Z, unless you address some of the core issues which these generations are facing. So you can't really have conservatives if there's nothing they want to conserve, and you can't have capitalists if they're capital. And we've identified that this boils down to 3 core areas. So housing, the ability to start a family, the feeling that work pays off that pays out productivity, and also to the tax burden. These are all issues which aren't fixable. But I think in a sense, in trying to preserve that grey vote, especially before such a difficult election, it's been done at the expense of young people's aspirations.
So you think that things like the triple lock plus, where there would be a carve out for all the people looking into income tax if their pension went over the tax rate, the focus on immigration and taxation, those were the wrong priorities at the last election?
I wouldn't say they're the wrong priorities. I just think that they need to be broader. They need to look at the issues that matter to working age people. I mean, if the Conservative Party is going to have a sustainable future, it has to bring in young voters. If you look at the Conservative voters in 2019 versus 2024, 4 times as many Conservative voters than Labour voters actually died in those years because they were aging out. And then if you look at the people who then turned 18 in that period, so became voters, 7 times as many of them voted Labour than they did Conservative. It's just not sustainable.
conversations, but also reflect true conservative values, regardless of what your age is.
Yeah, but I mean, the Chancellor tried to do that. Jeremy Hunt was promising further national insurance cuts. But I think what you're saying is that people on the doorstep didn't believe, the Tories' track record on tax, which had been steadily rising over that period. That message sounded a bit hollow.
Well, it did, because, right there on, we were in a position that we were probably trying to defend the highest tax base that the country's had in many years. So I think people fundamentally stopped trusting the Conservatives for a whole host of reasons. Some more understandable than others, and I'm not always trying to sell them the doorstep some things that we were going to do in the future, and which I think some of us would have said could have been delivered earlier in the early spring budget to give the sort of indications that we knew what people who want to vote Conservative what they want, and I think that goes across all ages, be it myself at the age of 65 to much younger colleagues who we can actually engage with. Let's be honest, particularly if the Labour Party during the course of this Parliament introduce lower ages for people to vote, we've got to start engaging with people who ultimately, people 16, 17, who ultimately become the next reflection of the voters of the community.
No, Cohen, which of these candidates ticks the youth box for you?
I mean,
Your organisation?
as a group, we're not endorsing anyone. That's for the members to make their mind up about. But what we are doing is putting questions to all the candidates. We've written to all of them, asking them what their approach is on these three core issues. So we really want to make sure that the issues of family, housing, and work are top of the agenda and something that the next leader realises are core topics that this generation is on.
Because, like I say, in the last government, especially Sunak, they did say they were going to lower taxes to make work pay, so working people pay more, and the tax cuts targeted at people working age. Their target was to build 1.5 million homes, or 1.6 million compared to the almost identical Labour target. So it wasn't as if they were completely unaware.
I don't think necessarily they were unaware, but ultimately it comes down to delivery and also, like you said, credibility. And I think that a lot of that trust was, to be honest, broken. And also whether there's a feasibility of the plan. We are totally in favour of lower taxes, but it can't just be tax cuts. We need proper productivity gains so that salaries rise in line with the way that house prices have exploded. And part of that, for example, comes down to, in the same issue of housing, planning reform. So one of the things which has massively stagnated our productivity is not just a failure to build houses, although that's a big part of it, but also a total failure to be able to build infrastructure. And it's the same core issue when it comes to planning.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Those questions on tonight with the six candidates heading up to Stockton-on-Tees. Noah Cohen from Next Gen Tories, thank you, and also to Councillor Russell Burns, the leader of the Bury Conservative Group on Bury Council. Thanks both. Now, it is exactly 20 to 9. 1 minute, you're a best-selling author. The next, you're felled by health problems, leaving you unable to read a book, let alone write one. Well, that is what happened to Mark Haddon, author of The Curious History of Dog in the Night, which is Nighttime, which is written from the perspective of a neurodivergent 15-year-old in 2003. And in 2019, Haddon had a heart bypass operation, followed by COVID, which caused fog and fatigue and robbed him of the ability to write and for some time to read. He's been writing now about his experiences as an online now. Good morning to you, Mark Haddon. How are you doing now?
I'm doing better, but it's a long haul. It's been 2 years of long COVID. I realise I'm very lucky. I'm huge where there are people there in wheelchairs, there are people who are bedbound, but writing is in some ways a very easy job. You get to sit at home in your pyjamas and have as much tea and biscuits as you want. But your brain needs to be working at top level. I often think it's a bit like being a surgeon. If your brain is at 95%, you shouldn't go into work. The difference being that if you're a surgeon, then someone dies, whereas if you're a writer and your brain's not working, you just produce complete rubbish. And that's really hard when writing is your reason for being on the planet. You simply can't do it.
And is it cognitive faculties, or is it energy? How would you describe it? What we've been through these last 5 years?
It's energy. It's having to sleep sort of 10, 11 hours a day. But most importantly, for me, it's the cognitive A friend of a friend who had chemo, which induces a very similar kind of fog, described it really well. She said she used to have a massive table in her head. She could lay lots of things out of it. She could see all of them, and she could work out the relationship between all these things. And that's exactly the kind of brain you need for writing a novel. But when you get long COVID or you've had chemo, you've suddenly got a tiny table in your head. You can put 3 or 4 things on it. You add a new thing, and it knocks one of the other things off. And that's exactly the kind of brain you don't need when you're trying to write a book.
What helped? What were the kind of things? And did you have conversations with other people in a similar situation? What things did you do that began to shift it?
I think time has shifted. Trying to be careful, trying to be very careful with my energy, not do too much. I think everyone in this position knows if you push it, you get knocked back. You find you're taking out an energy overdraft and you have to repay it. Some of the things which have really helped, for example, I mentioned when writing about it that I'm a volunteer listener for the Samaritans, and I think everyone who's used the Samaritans knows it can be a great service for people who ring in, but you don't realise this great service for people who volunteers. Even through the thickest of the fogs, I go and do my 4-hour shift every week, and as soon as you get into your phone rings, the fog clears instantly. In the same way that everyone soaks up in a burning building because you don't know who's going to be at the other end of that line. And I hope I do that to other people. But it's wonderful to have 4 hours every week when I'm immersed in someone else's life and don't have to think about myself. It's a holiday from being me, and it's a holiday from that fog.
Well, we wish you.
This week has brought back painful memories for so many Afghans. Memories still raw of their anguish, uncertainty, fear 3 years ago, when Kabul, the Afghan capital, suddenly fell into Taliban hands, 20 years after they were ousted for power, and after many years of war. There was an urgent need for information, for advice. The desperate refuge rushed to find refuge to escape. And in that moment, 21 Afghan women writers, women's writing, about to publish their first collection of short stories, transformed their WhatsApp group into a life to check on each other, to share news, to find support and solace. Their messages, their collective diary of those momentous times, and a story here was published this week, My Dear Kabul, with the support of a UK-based group, Untold Narratives, which works with writers in areas of conflict. Now, I'm very pleased to say we have joining us here in our studio, Batul Haidari. Welcome. She's a writer, activist, and clinical psychologist. And also Parwana Fayaz is a scholar and teacher of Persian literature at the University of Cambridge. Welcome to both of you. First of all, Papa, you have the book open, and it's very beautiful. Just read a little bit, just to give us a sense of what is inside.
So I'm reading a passage on from Masuma's birthday, and it's a very heartfelt passage. Like many other Afghans, I made the decision to go as far from Afghanistan as I could. Now I am in a place where I don't look like anyone around me. I don't understand the language. I don't know my way around. I don't know people. It is possible that in their eyes, I am odd and strange. By the way I dress, the way I sound, the way I eat, the way I look at people and things. The way I've learned everything, I know I'm different. And here, I must be born again. Begin again.
The Afghans having to start from zero, losing everything. Batul Haidari, at that time, you were teaching psychology at Kabul University, you were conducting research for your doctorate before you had to flee with your family in August that year. How hard was it to keep your writing group together in such turbulent times?
در اون وقتی که افغانستان سقوط کرد
On the day of the fall of Kabul, there was always a need to keep together the group of writers together. And with the help of Untold, the 21 writers stayed connected. That we could share their fears, their hopes, and uncertainties. And altogether, we learned that over a year, we were all sharing stories in our fear and stayed hopeful, and that gave us a kind of strength. And I think no matter where we ended after a year, or even a few months after the fall, we stayed connected through stories because that was the only safe house for us. And those stories matter, and those feelings matter. And that's why this book matters, because it's really conveying and capturing a moment in history that was so fearful for all these women. And yet it's a piece of history, a piece of important literature that's out in the world now. So to stay connected was to believe that it's going to result into something, into something that we didn't imagine to be in the form of a book, but it is. It's a beautiful book.
Thank you, for translating a bit of Batul, and also for adding a bit of, or you're a translator and you work with multiple languages. You edited and translated this book. Batul, can you tell us what you think was achieved in this book? Bringing these women, different women together.
زنای خیلی مختلف از کنار گوشی افغانستان میایم که چی هست این کتاب؟
اتحاد زنها از اقوام متفاوت نشان میده. پشتون، هزاره، شیعه، سنی، چیزی اختلاف افغانستان هست. تفاوتی کتاب نشان میده.
This book also brings unity of people coming from all corners of Afghanistan, whether they're Pashtuns, Hazara, Tajik. This book is really becoming a platform for them to share something. It's a safe house for women of all colors in Afghanistan from different language backgrounds and ethnicity. So yes, another mission accomplished in the book is to show that unity, and that's what literature is about.
And Pawana, you were in touch with the women as well. Were they, many of them, in real danger during that year from August 2021 where the Kabul fell?
Absolutely. I think not only, the writers, obviously they're the first, most dangerous part of their journey is their writers. Being a poet, being a writer in Afghanistan, being a woman, it's very dangerous. So the moment Kabul fell, I think women living in Kabul, even of places like Balkh or Ghazni, they almost felt that they are in great danger. And I think it is fair to say that, and fear was, kind of legitimized in a way that we know that there is no platform for us. But, having Untold and so many editors and translators abroad helping you to keep the platform running and believing that what's coming out of your writings and your voices, it's going to be in global scale. I think that was what it was really about. The danger obviously was there, but they also felt this need to speak up. And I think that's what the power is really here in the book. That despite the fear, despite the immediate fear right behind your doors, you're going to read throughout the book that these women are constantly destroying everything they have. The books, they're
getting rid of them.
Getting rid of them. And I think it's because we have presidents, we have things happening also poets, our writers, women were really, publicly, they were punished for writing. So I think this is a common knowledge for any woman to feel fear really.
But you're sliding. I have the book, and it's a huge achievement under incredibly difficult circumstances. For you, what did it achieve?
شاید یک زنها رو داخل خانه کرد ولی موثر قلم‌های ما توان سلسله زنان به همه جهان برسونیم. سوی افغانستان با ثبت این رویدادها ما جلوی انحراف از تاریخ در آینده گرفتیم چه بر سر زن افغانستان.
So Taliban confined us in the locked spaces. They tried to lock us in and never let us come out. But we know that through writing and literature and producing narratives and writing out fiction and writing out non-fiction, recording history, we are talking to the world and we are outside those boundaries. So this is what Afghan women really mean when they conquer the space of literary creativity and scholarship.
For making time to come in, Pawana Fayez, still a translator even here on the Today program, Batul Haidari as well. Thank you very much, and we wish you well. I know you're now seeking asylum here in Britain with your husband and children. My dear Kabul, and Simon, it's interesting because my dear Kabul is Kabul Jan, dear Kabul. That's how much they love their city. They call it dear Kabul. So here we are in dear Kabul.
Very effective.
I hope man and woman have been
our last message here that by buying the book, getting the book, you're going to honor this women and support them. So please get your copy, start reading it because you won't let it go. This story is going to stay with you. Thank you all.
Very moving book plug. We have a few of those on our
Yes.
program over here. Thank you for coming in. Now, how's your maths, Lise? Maths? So,
Do you want my confession now or later?
well, we'll see. Maybe we'll test you at some point. We're continuously told that we need to be doing more subjects like maths, further maths, physics, not least by the former Prime Minister, you'll remember, Rishi Sunak. Whether it was him or not, the message does seem to be getting through. More people took A-level maths than ever before. 100,000, first time it's broken the 100,000 barrier, took the maths A-level, and further maths saw a jump of 20% year on year, the biggest increase in any subject. Well, let's talk to Connie Huck, presenter and author and champion of STEM subjects. You must be pretty pleased, Connie Huck, with these numbers.
Yeah, no, it's definitely great. Maths has been at the top for some years now, but it's really amazing to see the uptake in further maths because we do lag behind our European counterparts when it's getting young people to go into STEM professions. So it really is good news indeed, and I feel that STEM subjects are getting a better PR than they have in previous years. So it feels that uptake is really sort of coming through.
And is that, why do you think that is? Is it because of people like you championing it? Are people realising that the best jobs, the best way of making a living in the future might be to do these subjects? Is that percolating down?
Yeah, I think it's multiple factors really. I think, as you mentioned before, government has realised the importance of STEM. So not just Rishi Sunak, but going before that as well. There was a real push to, for instance, get more women role models, scientists into the curriculum, as well as that, lots of different initiatives from institutions to try and get into schools and get young people sort of excited about physics, chemistry, all of the STEM subjects. Then, of course, there's been a real rise in sort of computing and computer literacy and coding and all things tech. It's a lot more sort of glamorous than it's been perceived before. You know, people think of things like Silicon Valley entrepreneurs these days rather than the sort of mad, grey-haired professor in a lab coat. So there's quite a few factors. You know, my children, for instance, love watching Young Sheldon, which is all about a kid that's totally into science and STEM.
So just very quickly, you did maths and further maths. How much of that did you use when you were presenting Blue Peter? And what did the children say when they wanted they probably want to be famous like you?
The weird thing is, maths actually is everywhere, all around us, as I'm always saying. And the reason I'm talking to you on the phone right now, and we're in different places, the reason the lights go on, planes fly, medicine, loads of things are to do with STEM, and maths as well, especially sort of calculus, is behind the reason that we know how much current to put through a wire and so on and so forth. So yeah, you're right, I don't necessarily use it firsthand, but in certain aspects, it does come in handy.
Well, Connie Huck, I've got my arithmetic is good enough to know that we're slightly short on time, but thank you so much for coming on. Connie Huck back.
I'm not sure are we good at maths and how are we at Olympic sports? Another Olympics is over and the world's Olympians after
to work and treating patients and things like that, but I'm really well supported so far.
And what do you, I mean, training for an Olympics, it requires extraordinary discipline and time, but so does studying to be a doctor. Simon's looking at me. He's just amused.
I'm just wondering when she takes her gold medal on her rounds to show the patients.
I mean, how, give us a sense of that juggling act, what your diary was like.
Yeah, I mean, completing my degree while also training full time was definitely very full on. But I think it's one of the things that I've always been really motivated by, doing two things that I really, really love, and I didn't want to give one up from the other. When I was younger, I didn't really think I could do both. I was always very academic, very into STEM, and so didn't really focus on the sports. And it was only when I got to university that I realised I didn't have to choose. So yeah, my timetable looks pretty full, but it's full because it's full of stuff that I love to do.
And you stop training for a while, that sort of rigorous schedule you have to maintain?
Yeah, that's right. We've had a few easier weeks, and that's meant that I've got a bit more energy to find my feet in my job and find that rhythm before I start building back into some training and thinking about future racing.
And we'll just very shortly, LA 2028, but your sport, the weight classes, won't be in that Olympics, so will you have to look for a new sport?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. My event isn't there, but rowing is there, and there's a new form called beach sprints, which I haven't tried yet, so I'm hoping to be there, but it might look slightly different.
Imogen, it is a huge honour to have you on the programme, for you to end this programme. Simon is jumping in his chair, he's thinking about those beach sprints. Thank you for joining us.
That's it from us. Our editors were Jack Evans and Hal Robertson. Have a good day.
BBC News at 9 o'clock. President Biden has urged all sides in the talks about a ceasefire in Gaza not to undermine the efforts. He's sending his top diplomat to the region after it was announced that Washington has put forward new proposals to the negotiations. Authorities in Lebanon say 9 people were killed by an Israeli airstrike overnight. Israel says it was targeting a weapons depot used by Hezbollah. Russia has claimed that Ukraine is likely to have used American-made rockets when it blew up a strategically important bridge in the Kursk region. Russian officials have been quoted as saying the operation has cut off part of one district. The parents of Natasha Edna Laperouse, who died from an allergic reaction to a Pret-a-Manger baguette in 2016, are calling for government action to protect people with food allergies following the death of 13-year-old Hannah Jacobs. She had a severe allergic reaction after one sip of a Costa Coffee hot chocolate, which contained cow's milk instead of soya milk. Nadine Edna Laperouse told Today Hero Radio 4 he wanted a meeting with the Health Secretary Wes Streeting.
It's not even common sense to legislate for every scenario. What should happen, really, is that the understanding and appreciation of food allergy by society in general, including businesses that are involved in food and drink, needs to really up the ante. Only through that and through behavioural change, in effect, can people be kept much more safe around food allergy.
Doctors are holding a strike across India to protest against the rape and murder of a colleague at a hospital last week. All non-emergency hospital services have been suspended for 24 hours. The train drivers' union ASLEF has defended its decision to call a series of strikes on LNER, saying the situation at the company is toxic. The government has recently agreed a nationwide pay deal with drivers, but ASLEF says this dispute is not about pay. LNER said it was disappointed with the strikes. BBC News.
This is Radio 4, heading down under later this morning because in Australia for a few weeks around this time of year, magpies seem to launch random attacks on passers-by. It's known as swooping season, but are we only seeing one side of the story? Find out in today's episode of Animal in 45 minutes. Before that, the missing Madonna. The plan to rescue the Madonna of the Yarnwinder is looking shaky. Will Robbie Graham be able to get his team back on board and complete the handover?
Previously on The Missing Madonna.
Police are watching airports and ferry terminals.